Woods Farm here. Just got a little bit of time to work on some more patterning on the Kubelwagen project. So today I've got the lower part of the firewall basically figured out. Now I'm going to work on this upper section here. And what it does is it angles back and it goes all the way up and it meets the hood about a third of the way down. And that separates the kind of the outside of the car from the inside. And this spot here, this cutout, is actually a storage compartment that's designed to hold a jerry can. So I'm going to work on this firewall, just getting the angle and the dimensions right. It kind of flares out a bit, I think, where it kind of meets the inner wheel well, and we're going to maybe work on some of that as well. On the original Kubel, it's kind of this curved piece. It's kind of the wheel wells are sort of the only curved pieces on the vehicle. I don't have the tools to kind of replicate that, so I'm just going to do it in a series of angles to kind of get the right clearance for the wheel. So we're going to try to work on some patterning for this today. Just figuring out a better way to hold these cardboard panels together. Just going to use zip ties. I think that's going to be a lot better than duct tape. And I was thinking about this last night. I think I'm just going to mock up one side of it, because these side panels can all be used as templates for both the left and the right side. Okay, that's where I'm at so far. You kind of start to visualize where that firewall ends up. It's a little bit of an angle forward, and it's got to carry on all the way across to this panel. I think the easiest thing to do right now, looking at it, is to actually bring this up. You see I have this dotted line, and bring it up that far to here, and then angling over to this pillar. And once that happens, this plate will come over, and then you just kind of tie it all in to that with a couple more angled pieces. However, when you look at pictures of the Kubelwagen, it's more complex. There's a kind of curved wheel well in here, and everything sort of meets it a lot further down, I think. So it's a matter of whether or not I want to kind of do it the easy way or try to replicate the Kubelwagen more closely. I think that's what I have to kind of think about. Just got one of the tires out, kind of visualized. So I'm really hoping I can find an aftermarket fender for a trailer fender that's going to work for this. Just a matter of whether or not I can get one big enough. This afternoon and tomorrow I'm going to work on this back firewall. I've got some 1.5 inch angle, that's 1/8 stuff. That's what I'm going to use to kind of make the foundation, and then build it up from there. So that's on the list. But first, I got a little side project. Just quick and dirty. I'm going to turn this old hand cart into a little bit of a welding cart for my MIG welder, because this thing's a pain in the ass to keep moving around. I've been using this little bench, which I need for other things. So I was thinking about building a welding cart from scratch, or maybe even buying them. You can get them for about $100. But I got this hand cart laying around, and I got a real simple idea to kind of get it into a sort of a cart that I can put the welder on. So that's what we're going to do first. Okay, it took about an hour. I welded a couple of the brackets, but I just bolted up most of it. I'll keep an eye out for a new handcart, something a little better than this thing. When that happens, I'll actually weld it up. Maybe add a couple of hooks on it, maybe a bottom shelf for a toolbox or something. Would have been better if it was maybe 6 or 8 inches higher, I think, but that's not bad for just a crappy old handcart. You can roll it around the shop now. So kind of set it up where you need it to be. So that's all I was going for. So that works. Okay, well that's the base of the rear kind of firewall. I don't know what you'd call it. It's kind of there's a step here, a step up, and it's underneath the back seat. And then it comes up and it goes back and over top of the transmission. So this is as far as I got. It took a little longer than I had hoped, but it turned out pretty good. I got to clean up the welds, and then this part is going to get tied in to these rails here. At the back here, it'll get tied in, and it'll eventually be one complete sort of section that goes all the way around and bolts onto the floor pans. You see I got the holes set. There's 3 bolts on each side. Kind of get an idea what it looks like off the car. And on the side view, that's what made it complicated. If it was just a straight run, it would have been easy. But I had to build around that hatch here. You got to come up here and you got to dip around this, and there's a little cover that goes over this, gets screwed down. And this is how you access the shift linkage to the transmission. If you got to do any service and disconnect the transmission, that's how you do it. So got to build around that. This whole thing is actually underneath the back seat. Sort of the battery will sit here under the back seat. So yeah, I'll hopefully get a little bit more work done tomorrow. The next step will be patterning, starting with cardboard. The sheet metal that comes up and back. So I'm going to work on that. Just the same as the front. Same idea. There's this metal brace here, and then the sheet metal gets welded to it. So I'm just going to pattern that tomorrow. So anytime you're fabricating up something, you're going to overlook something. I don't know, I can't even remember why I did it this way, but there's this little ridge here. And when it comes to this back piece, this is the rail for the frame here. I got to marry this up somehow. So I mean, part of me was just like gonna weld around it, but the idea is this whole thing can lift up and be bolted off, so you can unbolt the body, lift it up, and this is just gonna cause all kinds of problems. So I'm gonna zip cut this off, grind it down, fill in the weld if I have to, so that this, when I join these two pieces, it's just a nice smooth transition. I have to do it on both sides. So that's just what I'm working on right now. It sucks to have to kind of backtrack a bit, but that's what I'm faced with, so I might as well take the time and kind of do it right. So that's a basic layout of the back end. this ledge. Now I'm struggling with figuring out exactly the height. You know, measurements I took off of another replica Kubelwagen were around 12 inches from the floor on the outside and around 3.5 inches from the top of the tunnel. This is significantly higher right now, but I don't have a clear picture of how this works at the back here in terms of having enough clearance. You can see the height there, and then there's that piece of angle iron right here. Those are two body mounts. There's one on each side, and then there's the shock tower. You see that angle iron isn't even as high as that shock tower. And this line here is level from the top of this angle iron. And then we have the back of the bell housing to clear as well. So how exactly I'm going to design this, I'm not sure. I believe on the original Kubel, there's a cutout for the starter motor and the top of the bell housing, and there's like a raised access hatch that just kind of goes around that area. And that would make more sense if you went level at about 3 inches. It's not going to clear the bell housing. But then there's these shock towers, and although they're not quite as high as the bell housing, they're pretty close. They're just a little bit lower than the top edge here. So my dilemma is, do I build this, do I just make it square? You know, do I just go up and come back straight and clear the bell housing? Or do I start lower and come back and then work my way up over the bell housing, or make a hatch for clearance? I don't know, and I don't know what to do with these shock towers. I'm not sure how it works. So yeah, I'm kind of stuck. I've got a couple different ideas, but at this point I'm just gonna think about it some more. I mean, there's obviously a number of different ways to do it. It's just a matter of settling on which way I want to do it. Just working on a mock-up of the back floor area. I really like the idea of an access hatch. The Kubelwagen had that, so I'm gonna do the same thing. And you see, this is kind of what I'm going for. I might widen that hatch a bit. But aside from that, and I'm doing a little bit of a step up. Right, this line here represents where the this bottom panel comes up. So where this plywood comes out and overhangs, that's not actually there. That's just to represent the shelf of the back seat, which is made out of, you know, like 1-inch tube or whatever, and has a cushion on it and it folds up and down or whatever. So it's just to represent the size of the seat itself. So the actual panel will start at this line and go back. And a few of the pictures I've seen, it looks like it almost starts to angle up. It goes up on an angle, but I don't know. You see, that's the issue. I gotta clear that part of the shock tower. So I don't know. I might play around with this height here. That's just a 2x3, nice and easy. I can probably go down to maybe even 2 inches or 1.5 inches, because really you just need clearance to be able to do the work. and I have to design some sort of framework that ties in with this mounting point right here. So this gives you a good visualization of what it's going to look like.